who's our favorites to reach the NBA Finals, who gets our votes for the NBA's most prestigious awards, and our thoughts on the Masters? Find out next. MCTV Sports 101 starts now.
Welcome to MCTV Sports 101. I'm Becca Chance, joined as always by Cal Stafford and Billy Ingle.
Hey, Becca.
Hey.
All right, let's get to it. With an NBA playoff set to begin this Saturday, how do the guys see the matchups playing out in the Eastern Conference?
Well, the most intriguing matchup, I would say, in the Eastern Conference in this first round, one I'm looking at is this Atlanta-Boston matchup.
Yeah, good matchup.
It's a great matchup. And see, what Boston has to do is to beat Atlanta. I think one of their key perimeter defenders in Avery Bradley, he's got to step up. With Atlanta having Paul Millsap and Al Horford playing down low and playing on the block the way that they do, I think wing defending is going to come in as a big key for the Boston Celtics. Avery Bradley is one guy who's been stepping up for them in the last year or so, and it's just been getting better and better. And so what I want to see him do is I want to see him limit Kent Bazemore and Kyle Korver on the three to really low numbers on this first round.
Yeah, I mean, he's a great defender, and you add that along with Isaiah Thomas. That's a great backcourt for Boston. That could change, though, as well. There's some playoff seeding that could happen where, Boston, they could end up not playing each other. I think it will stay there. I think that's a good series. I think Boston sneaks out of that series with the win. I think they're just the better team. Atlanta's kind of dropped off from last season. They have played well late. I feel like Boston's a better
I just
team.
think Boston has more energy than Atlanta.
Yeah.
Atlanta, over the last couple of years,
they
are younger, and they're more hungry. Atlanta, see, they've been in the playoffs these last couple of years at these mid-seed levels, trying to just get through the playoffs. And so they kind of know what they're expecting.
And don't forget, they were the 1 seed last year, and they made it to the Eastern Conference Finals before getting beat against the Cavs. So, I mean, they have playoff experience, but Boston getting there last year playing the Cavs, I think they're ready to take the next step in that.
I agree as well. And another matchup that intrigues me very well is this Toronto and Indiana matchup. Toronto sitting at number 2. Now, last year, Toronto in the playoffs, they got swept by the Washington Wizards. They got swept.
Didn't even make the playoffs, the Wizards, this year.
And if that team's going to sweep this second-seed Toronto team, it's giving me some worries right now. And you got an Indiana team that's not just some run-of-the-mill team.
No.
They've got Paul George, a proven all-star, along with Monte Ellis, which is an aggressive scorer. So, I mean, clearly Toronto should win. They are the favorites, and they are the better team. But I got to watch out for Indiana sneaking up on them.
Yeah, I see them. I just don't know if Indiana has enough this year. I mean, besides Paul George, Monte Ellis hasn't been fantastic this year for him. He's been just okay. I think Toronto, this is the year they finally get over that hump. I think Kyle Lowry, if he can get healthy with the elbow issue, and DeMar DeRozan, Damari Carroll's back, that's a big deal. Although I don't see him getting out of the second round. See, my second round matchups right now, it's at Miami taking on Toronto. Miami, I think they're going to get past the Charlotte Hornets. Great season for the Hornets. I'm very impressed with the Hornets this year. They have made a great stride.
I think they're playing really well. It's Kemba Walker, Al Jefferson. They've got all the Nicholas Batum is actually one of the bigger players that Charlotte has got this year, and he's been playing outstanding.
Yeah, and so I have it Miami versus Toronto and the Cavs versus Boston right now. And that's if these playoff seedings stay the way they are. I think the Cavs and Boston, I think it'll be a competitive series. I think the Cleveland Cavaliers get it 4-1.
So now let me jump over here. Now, who do you think? Now, what do you think of Miami and what they can do in the playoffs?
Well, listen, Cleveland better pray that Miami gets the 3 or 6 seed, because they do not want to face them early. Because I'm telling you, Miami and Cleveland, if they meet up, it will go to 7. I think Cleveland will get it just because they have home court advantage, but that game will go to 7, and Miami could win.
It could. Becca, do you see the Cleveland Cavaliers returning back to the Eastern Conference Finals?
Oh, definitely. I don't see anyone beating the Cavs in the Eastern Conference. They have way too much talent, so I have no doubt they'll make it back to finals. Moving on to the West, do you guys see any upsets in the first round of the Western Conference?
Well, no. I mean, I think it's going to be straight chalk. I think, let's see, Golden State's probably going to either take on Houston or the Jazz. If Houston wins, I mean, they're in the playoffs.
Golden State, they'll sweep Houston. I'd put money on that.
They may lose one to the Jazz on the road because the Jazz have played them extremely well.
They do play
Utah.
them well.
But besides that,
Golden State's going to win that. Golden State's winning that series.
Well, I'll move on to San Antonio and Memphis. This is most likely Memphis because I don't think they'll beat Golden State.
I don't think so either.
Look, I think it's a sweep. Memphis has had a fantastic year. They're going to play them hard all 4 games because that's what Memphis does. They grind out games. They may win one at home. But when you have 28 different players suit up for you in one season, that's going to be a record going in for any playoff team. They made 43 wins, but without Gasol and Conley, I just don't see that team.
And they're going up against a Spurs team that's had chemistry for years on end now. And Memphis, they've just still learning to play together. I just don't see it happening the other way. Now OKC, they're playing Dallas.
That's going to be a good series.
I think it is going to be a good series. Now Dallas, just in this last month, getting in this playoff push,
really well.
they have been playing
really
well. And you're seeing a lot more determined team. Now I still think Oklahoma City is still going to edge it out. I mean, they do have the best duo in the NBA and Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. But I think Dallas they can easily grind out 2 or maybe 3 games.
Yeah, and that's a kind of a classic. Back to when Harden was with Oklahoma City Thunder, they met a couple times in the Western Conference Finals.
Back when my Mavericks swept the Oklahoma City Thunder.
But this is not that Mavericks team.
This is not that Mavericks team.
Yeah, they're not the same team. OKC obviously doesn't have Harden, so I mean, I think they're still pretty good this year. I see him. I think 4-1. I think Dirk doesn't get swept in his final playoff series. I think Dirk's gonna retire after this year.
Now let me tell you this. Right now, what I'm interested to see is what can the Clippers do when they add Blake Griffin back to this roster in a meaningful game.
That's true. I mean, he's been back for a couple weeks, or at least a week now, I believe. But they're going to play Portland. I think Portland, they had a great year. They really beat expectations. Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum. I just don't
MVP.
see them beating the Clippers. Maybe 1 or 2 wins in the series.
And the thing is the Clippers got the 6th man of the year, which I think will be the 6th man of the year, and Jamal Crawford has been playing outstanding. They've just got the chemistry, and I think
Redick too. He's a great.
He's
had a tremendous year.
He's had a great year. Not only with just being a knockdown shooter, he's having a lot of overall game with his mid-range jumpers and passing the ball. Now, what I want to ask you is, who's coming out of the West?
Okay, well, I'm going to go in the second round. Warriors and Clippers, I think, will be a great matchup because it's a great rivalry. Last time they met, it went to 7. It ain't going to 7 this time. I'll maybe say 6, just to give the Clippers a little fighting chance.
I was making sure you weren't talking about Oklahoma City.
Okay, now Spurs and OKC, this is going to shock you. I'm going with OKC in 7 in San Antonio. Yes, I understand, but there's something about Oklahoma City
There's no way
this
that
year.
they're taking out San Antonio.
They've had a great year, but nobody's really talking about it. They've had some blown leads late. They got Westbrook and Durant. They missed the playoffs last year. They're hungry for it. Kevin Durant will lead the Oklahoma City Thunder to the conference finals. Now, when they face the Golden State Warriors, the Warriors, of course, will get to the NBA Finals. That's my pick.
Okay. Becca, do you have the Golden State Warriors returning back to the NBA championship where they once were last year?
Definitely. I see them winning the championship again this year. They tied the 95-96 Bulls record of 72 wins with the win on Sunday night against the San Antonio Spurs. And the Spurs are one of the only teams that I've seen been able to somewhat shake up the Warriors' offense. So that the Warriors have reached the historic milestone of 72 wins, I think they will ride this all the way to the end. Now that the NBA regular season is over, who do you guys have taking home the most prestigious NBA awards?
Well, I think we got a runaway MVP with Steph Curry.
Unanimous.
I don't know how you could pick anybody else.
Yeah.
I mean, Damian Lillard, I know you've been harping on all season. He's had a great year. Russell Westbrook's had a great year. But, you just can't overshadow what Steph Curry has done this year.
No.
And so, Coach of the Year, there's a lot of different people I go with. I'm going with Dave Yeager. The way that he's just put those Memphis Grizzlies into a playoff position, and the way he's played with 28 players this year, that's unheard of. So I think Dave Yeager. Now I don't know if he will win it, just because you got Steve Kerr and Luke Walton of the Warriors having clearly one of the greatest seasons that's ever been played in the NBA. So I think for that reason that they might slightly get it, but I think Dave Yeager deserves it.
Yeah, I think he definitely does. Since you said Dave Yeager, I'll give somebody else that I think. I think Terry Stotts at Portland. I think he's done a tremendous job. 4 or 5 starters left, including an all-star in LaMarcus Aldridge. And Damian Lillard has had a career year. CJ McCollum, a guy that only averaged, 6.3 points per game in his career in the 2 seasons prior to this one, and 20.9 this year. That's a huge improvement. That's why I'm going with him as most improved player of the year as well. Steph Curry could easily win that, but I think MVP is enough, and Kemba Walker also did a tremendous job this year. Career high 21 points per game, and his 3-point percentage went up, which I think has really helped him.
See, another person that I want to bring up for most improved is Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah.
Kawhi Leonard has went from just a defensive dominant person to an all-around all-star.
MVP type guy.
Exactly. Almost, if not most improved, definitely in the conversation for MVP as well.
Yeah.
But see, in other people, Russell Westbrook, you could bring him up. He could win the most improved player.
18 triple-doubles this year. That's first since Magic Magic Johnson did it in 81-82. So.
And the style of play in which he does it. What was it, 2 nights ago? I think he had a triple-double in the first quarter.
17 minutes and 35 seconds. It was the second fastest in the history. The record's 17 minutes even. So he had a good job. I think Damian Lillard, I think he should get the second vote. I think he had a tremendous year. I don't think they will give it to him. I'm sure like LeBron James and Kawhi Leonard will get up there. But I think what he did with Portland to help lead that team into the postseason, this is a tough Western Conference. We're not talking about the East here. They're going to get the 6th seed or 5th seed in the West. And that's pretty impressive.
Becca, what potential award winners do you see taking on the hardware this weekend?
I have Steph Curry for Most Improved and the MVP. He's not only proved himself as the MVP this whole season, but he's also improved his shooting game from 23.8 average per game to now shooting a 29.9 per game, and that's a huge improvement, and it's the reason that the Warriors have seen so much success this year. For Coach of the Year, I'm going to disagree with y'all and go with Dwayne Casey from the Raptors. He's not only was the Coach of the Month in January, but he's also brought this team to the 2nd seed in the Eastern Conference, which is huge for the Raptors, and I think that's why he deserves the award. From the hardwood to the tee box, the Masters took place this weekend and saw Jordan Spieth struggle down the stretch, allowing Danny Willett to claim his first Masters. Guys, were you surprised by the way things turned out?
Well, you know, I was a little surprised. I really thought Jordan Spieth, after having the lead after the first 3 rounds, I really thought he finished strong, but he really struggled down the stretch. Going into the 12th hole, a par 3, a quadruple bogey. I mean, how many times do you see that on a par 3?
And not only that, but on the biggest stage of the Masters.
Yeah.
I mean, especially the way he's been playing so well. I think it was a surprise to all of us. But, you know, you got to give it hats off to Danny Willett for what he was able to do.
Great round.
I mean, you know, going through, he's playing about even golf all the way until the very last day, shoots 5 under to take the lead, and then ends up winning the Masters. I thought that was remarkable for him to do that and get his first win there.
Yeah.
But another thing that stands out to me was Rory McIlroy. I was really expecting a lot more better things to come of him. You know, he played well with the first 2 days, was -3, just a spot back behind Jordan Spieth, and then comes in on the 3rd day and just, you know, lays an egg and ends up 2 over. So I was really surprised the way he did that.
Yeah, and I really feel like last season when he had that lower leg injury, I feel like he hasn't fully recovered because we haven't seen the same Rory McIlroy that was there before the injury. And that's really allowed Jordan Spieth to take off. And I don't think this will affect Jordan Spieth. I mean, he's had a tournament before where he hasn't won. Obviously, he would have liked to win the Masters. I mean, who wouldn't like to win the Masters? He's done it once. I think he'll be back at it again next year in the Masters. But I think the next tournament, I think we'll see Spieth really turn it back around.
Well, thanks for joining us again this week, Becca.
Awesome. It's great to be here. I'm excited to see how the playoffs unfold.
Yeah, thanks for joining us again. Well, that's our show for this week's edition of MCTV Sports 101. Join us next week for the latest big name stories in sports. For Becca Chance, I'm Kyle Stafford.
And I'm Billy Ingle. Till next time.